Good Tuesday morning, everybody. It's time for Coffee with Rob. I hope everybody's doing good, having a good week over the Monday blues on the Tuesday. And it's a beautiful day here in Kentucky. So, well, except for the guy down the road shooting everybody up. I hope they catch him. And cops are really working day and night to get that guy. So keep them in prayer down there, down around London, Kentucky. And for the highway shooter just up the street. So, anyway, hope everybody's doing good. We're in Mark chapter 6. Yesterday we covered the beheading of John the Baptist, unfortunately. And I said that stands right in the face of the prosperity message that just because you serve Jesus doesn't mean your life's going to be perfect. Good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, but the main thing is that God is with us through everything, and it should strengthen our faith. We're in a fallen world. A lot of bad things happen. Been there, done that. You know, I was gone with my agency once, and we lost a child. So I mean, it's but that didn't shake my faith. The way I look at it, in a way, Ray Sidnor, my buddy, always says, we'll give the devil a black eye every time we get a chance. So we're gonna keep solid faith, keep going. So we're in Mark chapter 6 this morning. This is where Jesus feeds the 5,000. Now remember, John the Baptist was just beheaded. Jesus had sent the disciples out. They had learned their new powers from Jesus Christ, the miraculous powers. They had to cast out demons, to heal people, and to preach the gospel. So let's not forget that, because that's our job today, is to preach the gospel. So Jesus gets the news about his cousin John the Baptist dying, and he decides, let's get away for a while. I need a break. And they go to a solitary place. Now, they go to get some rest, but what they find out is when they get there, their people can see them, because he's on a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and the people on the shore can see him. So basically, they just follow him from Capernaum all the way over across the tip of the Sea of Galilee, or the Sea of Tiberias, which John will say in John chapter 6. And he goes over to a place where there's some grass on the side of a hill, and they're already there when he gets there. He's trying to get rest. He's trying to relax. It gets late in the day. He's trying to mourn the death of his cousin. But what we're going to find out is about 15 to 20,000 people follow him to this station, so this place. And this is where the beginning of the feeding of the 5,000, this is where it begins. So it says, we'll start in Mark chapter 6, verse 34. So they're getting away. John the Baptist has just been beheaded. Jesus just got the news. The disciples just returned from their mission trip that Jesus sent them on 2 by 2. And it says this: when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd. Now we know this large crowd was about 15 to 20,000 people, and I'll explain that in a minute. He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Yes, these people are hurting. They're oppressed. They're under Roman oppression. The Levant, the Israel Hebrew territory, has been divided under 4 kings instead of 1. The people are disillusioned. They're just looking for any ray of hope. And Jesus comes on the scene, and they're following him everywhere because he's feeding them, he's looking out for them, he's healing them, and now there's a ray of hope in their life finally, while all this is going on. And so he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And it's important, by the way, sorry to keep interrupting, but the importance of pastors and elders and mature Christians to maintain their role as mature believers in the body of Christ, because so many people are searching today. The world is a mess. It's getting disorderly very quickly, and the only order we have is biblical. And so mature Christians, I hope you're listening. If you're out there, I hope somebody's watching. Literally, stand strong, step up, because the people of the world, even, and the people in the church, are like sheep without a shepherd. We need strong men and women leading our churches, standing on the promises of God and being strong with some backbone and confidence, and looking out for people. So they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So he starts teaching. He goes to get a break. He's on the side of this hill on the east side of Galilee, and he begins teaching instead of resting. By this time, it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said, and it's already very late. Now, this is people, remember that some people look at life through the eyes of humanity, through the eyes of the flesh, and not through the eyes of the spirit. Sometimes when we operate in the flesh, even though we feel like we have a good idea and we operate in what's called light, It's not really light. It's a darkness because we don't see everything clearly. We have to see it through like God's eyes or through faith or through biblical principle. And then we are in the true light, which is in the light of Jesus Christ. So they're starting to look at this through their flesh and they know it's already late. We need to, this is our solution, Lord. Let's send everybody away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. They got to feed these people. Now, we don't know the motivation, so this is speculation. Maybe the disciples are tired and they just want a break. Or maybe they just feel for Jesus. They know he's tired. They know his cousin's just been murdered and they're trying to get him a break. This is human solution. But what does Jesus say? He looks at them and says, no, you give them something to eat. Now, this is, by the way, if you look at all these accounts, and let me see, I wrote these down. So let me flip my page here. Matthew 14, Luke 9, and John 6 cover this same story. So you have to read all 4 of these to get the complete picture. And what you find out is that as Jesus is up on this mountain trying to feed these people, trying to get some rest, he's speaking with Philip and Andrew. Andrew would be Simon Peter's brother. He's speaking with them. So Philip comes in and says, man, we need to send these people away. There's not enough food here for anybody. 8 months of wages, it would cost us 8 months of wages to feed all these people, just some bread. And then Andrew's the one that comes in and says, by the way, there's a young boy here who has 5 loaves and 2 fishes. We can do something with that. And so that's the key. So Jesus says, but he answered, you give them something to eat. And they said to him, and this is Philip's response, that would take 8 months of man's wages. Are we going to spend that much on bread and give it to them and eat? So Jesus says this, and this is key. Excuse me. This is key. Jesus doesn't ask them, you need to figure out, you need to come up with this money, and you need to figure out how to feed all these people. You know what he says? And this applies to us. So this is the applicable part of this that I believe, is that Jesus doesn't say, go buy it, go figure out how to get the wages, go bring that bread up here and feed these people. He doesn't say that. And what's he say? And he's saying this to me and you. He says, bring me what you have. How many of us today are rich? How many of us today are extremely talented? Not many of us. How many of us are extremely skilled? All these things. Jesus doesn't say to you, you have to have all these solutions. What he says is, I've given you some talent. I've given you a life. I've given you maybe the ability to sing, maybe the ability to earn. He's not saying, I want you to come up with the solutions to all these problems. He's saying, bring to me what you have been given. If you make $100 and you can bring 10, bring me 10. And he does. And that's, by the way, as a church, the tithing thing, you can preach that in 30 seconds. Bring 10% of your net or your gross, depending on how you look at that. And God can do miracles with just the 10% of money you bring to the church. Matter of fact, Dave Ramsey has said, if we all brought our 10% in like we should, that we could buy every school in America, we could solve the world hunger and all this. I don't know how he did all those calculations, but I listened to that message. That's Dave Ramsey. If we Christians just literally tithe 10%, bring what you have. You're making something, bring in 10%, and we can solve a lot of the problems in the world by being faithful to God, bringing it to him and see what he can do with it. And that's what Jesus is saying. You give them something to eat. He's not saying you go get those wages, you get those bread, and you feed these people. He's saying, bring me what you have. Christian today, I'm not asking you to solve all the problems of the world. I'm asking you just to bring me what you have. And that's what he does. And this goes along too with the 2 Corinthians 3 or 1 Corinthians 3, when he says, one plant, one waters, I give the increase, and then you get the chance to harvest. Notice how that goes right along with this. The bread is going to be the word. So they're going to bring bread to Jesus. They're going to distribute it. He's going to increase it, and then they're going to harvest what's left over. Same principle in Corinthians 3. Plant, water, wait for the increase, then harvest. Same principle. So he says, you give them something to eat. And they said to him, that would take 8 months' wages. Are we going to spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? Jesus says this, how many loaves do you have? I'm not asking you to bring me 8 months' wages. I'm saying, how many do you have? This is the point of the question. This is when Andrew in John chapter 6 says, we have a small boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And that's what happened. So how many loaves do you have, he asked? Go and see. When they find out, they said, we have 5 loaves and 2 fish. Of course, this is not in Mark, but that's the case. And so then Jesus directed them all to have a place to sit down. Now notice this too, by the way. If your ministry is chaotic, If your life is chaotic, you're not walking with God. I mean, there's seasons and there's times when we have issues. But if your life is chaotic and the things you're trying to do for God are chaotic and you're wore out, because some people feel this need, I gotta do everything. I gotta do everything. You don't. God always does everything neat and in order, and that's what he does here. Then Jesus directed them to have all people sit down in groups on green grass. Isn't that neat? So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Then taking the 5 loaves, he takes what they have brought to him. He takes what they have. Whoever you are, whoever's listening, I hope somebody is, whatever you have, it's never too little. If you have something that you can offer to God, like the widow that gave her 2 mites at the temple, if you have some, if you can sing, if you can sew, if you can preach, if you can teach, if you can do construction, if you can work on cars, if you have a small talent, you don't have to have a master's degree or a doctorate. Just bring what you have to Christ and see what he does with it. Jesus directed them to sit down, and he takes the 5 loaves. He doesn't go, oh my God, you only brought 5 loaves? No, he didn't say that at all. He takes what they brought him. He takes what they offer him. He takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. Then he looks up to heaven to his Father and gave thanks. Thank you, Lord, that I have a life. Thank you that I'm still only in my 50s. I still have time left to give Christ what I have. Thank you that I'm only 19 and I don't have a college education, Lord, but I'm going to bring my good attitude to you, and I'm going to bring my love for people to you, and I'm going to try to expand your kingdom to be faithful with what I have. Whatever you bring to Jesus, he's not going to turn you away. Bring what you have. Bring your best offering and bring it to him and say, God, this is what I have. You know me. My name's Susie. My name's Rob. My name's John. My name's Billy. My name's Lucy. This is all I have, God. But will you please take it and use me for your kingdom? And he will. I promise you. He's not going to say, oh my, Lucy, everybody around you is right. Don't bring that. We can't use that. He's going to take what you bring him, and he's going to multiply it beautifully. Bring him with a pure heart, with the intention of serving God, and he'll multiply it beautifully. So he takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. This is Mark 6:41. And looking up to heaven, he gave thanks. He looks at Jesus. He looks up to his Father. He gave thanks. Then he broke it. Now, this is the thing when we talk about planting the seed, watering the seed, and God multiplies it. He takes the loaves, he breaks the loaves, and again, by the way, I'm sorry, John 6:35, I believe it is, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. He takes the loaf and he breaks it. We do this in communion. We break the loaf. And so he breaks the loaves. Then he gives it to his disciples to set before the people. We have the responsibility. He brings the bread. He brings the word. Jesus is the bread of life. He brings the bread. He says, here's my word. Take it, give it to the people. We plant, we water. He multiplies. Same principle. He gave thanks. He broke the loaves, then gave them to his disciples to set before the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. And look at verse 42. They all ate. Now that's not so miraculous considering, well, there's 12 disciples, there's 5,000 men. Matthew, actually in Matthew, I think it's, let me find this, my apologies. Matthew 14:21 says this, that there were 5,000 men besides women and children. That's what I said. There's probably 15 to 20,000 people here, because if you got 5,000 men and doubled that, if they were all married, and I don't know if they were or not, but we're just for an example, you would have 10,000 if you had the women, and if each one had a child, that's 15,000 people. Most of them would have 2, 3, 4, 5 children because they needed them to work the farm. You guys know how it was back in the day. They needed more children to work the farms. So you probably have somewhere 15 to 20,000 people sitting here to eat, and they all ate. Look at that. God said, you need to solve this problem. He didn't say that. He said, bring me what you have. God got a hold of what they had. He multiplied it, and they all ate. Bring God what you have. It doesn't have to be amazing. Like, I don't know, a little drummer boy played music for them. But they were satisfied. They not only ate, they were satisfied. They were full. They ate and they were satisfied. By the way, if you eat the word of God, for example, you put it in your mind, you will be satisfied. There is knowledge there. There's a God-shaped hole in every person, even an atheist. And the reading of the word fills that void in your life. It gives you direction, gives you hope, gives you meaning, tells you where you came from, orientation, shows you where morality came from, shows you your destiny, your purpose in life. There's things here in the Bible that fulfill and satisfy these desires that even universities can't satisfy. And the disciples picked up, what did they pick up? 12 baskets full. Common sense here. Number one, 2 fish and 5 loaves is 7. That's God's number. A lot of you know that. That's the perfect number, number of completion, number of perfection, the plan of God, 7 days in a week. On the seventh day, all these things. And the disciples picked up what? 12 baskets. They're like, we don't have enough, God. What are we going to do? We only have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He says, no, do what I ask you. Go out in faith. Take my word out in faith. I'll multiply it. You get to pick it up. You get to harvest. So they harvest. What do you think there's 12 baskets for the 12 disciples? There's enough left over for them. Can you imagine only having 5 loaves and 2 fish, and they're hungry too, and we got 15 to 20,000 people to feed, and they're thinking, man, we got to give this food out. We might not get to eat. But God looks out for them too. Remember I said, if it's God's will, he'll pay the bill. And that's what we're doing here. They go and they pick up the baskets full. They have a basket full for each one of them. So they eat as well. So the disciples go out and pick up the 12 baskets of broken pieces of fish and bread, and the number of men who had eaten and were satisfied. These men didn't go away hungry. You never go away hungry if you look for God in the Word and you apply it. And these people didn't go away hungry either. He satisfied their hungry. And they were probably very hungry. They were oppressed people. So the number of men who had eaten were about 5,000, beside women and children. Remember, that's in Matthew. I already forgot that. Matthew 14:21. And in John 6 is where we find out that Philip and Andrew were the ones talking to Jesus. And again, I think the biggest application is this for me, and that I would like to give out today. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a governor. You don't have to be a nurse. You don't have to be anything. Just be a person that comes to Jesus with what you have. God, I just graduated high school. God, I don't have a lot of life experience, but I am going to bring you what I have. I'm a kind person. I'm a sincere person. I am I'm an authentic. Be authentic. Don't be fake. Be an authentic person. Hey, man, this is me. I was the best C student I could ever be. I didn't get straight A's in school, but I was a good C student. I'm like, God, I don't have a lot. Well, you can have what you've given me, and that's a life, and you can do with that what you want. And I did a lot of things in my life, and I'm proud of it, and grateful that God brought me through all my military experience, so on, being a preacher for almost 30 years. Literally, a lot of life experience, and I owe it all to Him. So take what you have. If you're just graduating, if you're just going to college, and you're nervous, if you're just joining the military, I see guys going to basic training, girls going to basic training. This is what you have. You have a body. You have breath in your lungs. You have something to offer because you're still alive. So take what you have, bring it to God, and say, God, show me what I can do or what you can do with this. Break me in my heart, and let my identity be in you. Take what I'm bringing you. This is my body and my life. Use me today, God, for your purpose. Show me what my purpose is. Multiply it. And I promise you, if you do that, there's going to be a harvest beyond your wildest dreams if you can give your life to Jesus Christ. And I know there's a thing, and I don't know who said it. It says it's yet to be seen what God can do with a person who is completely surrendered to Him. And maybe you could be that person today. Let's see what God can do with just your life. So have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.